Ballad of Jack Connor by Ed Vogel. There was a wild young rascally boy. Jack Connor was his name. Born and raised in Ireland, in a town called Castlemaine. He was his father's only son, his mother's pride and joy. He loved his parents true to heart, this wild young Irish boy. His dear mother, she took ill. His father took to drink. Jack, he had to bail the boat so the family would not sink. His honest work could scarce pay off. And so he took to crime. Young Jack Connor turned outlaw and changed his course in time. He stole a pig, he stole a cow to feed his family poor. His parents gave Jack thanks and praise, but the law had to do more. The magistrate said 50 pounds to he who finds this man. So Jack fled sadly from his town, his home and native land. And to Australia's sunny shores he was inclined to roam. Far away from Ireland, his parents and his home. There to start a brand new life, he used his skills of old, and thus became a highwayman, the most daring and most bold. But Jack, he was not quick enough, for he soon was brought to trial. Laws in Australia are just as harsh as on his native isle. The 12 good men did not like Jack. They knew he was guilty. So young Jack Connor met his death on a scaffold by the sea. So gather round and hear this tale. Hark the words you read. Do not steal or break the laws, no matter what you need. But if you want to meet your fate as young Jack Connor had, hanging from a rough old rope, go rob and steal, my lad.
An old song on a jukebox by Josh Swedlow. The man just sits there with his arms folded on the counter and his legs tucked under the stool. He rubs his eyes with a cocktail napkin and goes back to staring at the couple a few seats down. His legs tense up against the stool as the girl and her date flirt and giggle and order for each other. He thinks he knows what perfume the woman is wearing. It is the same one his wife used to wear. And the man lays his head down in his arms, facing away from the couple. The girl and her date start to whisper to each other, and the man notices the murmurs and is forced to wipe his eyes with a cocktail napkin again. Some old song starts up on the jukebox, and the man knows someone back there is dancing. The man finally decides to sit himself up, and when he does, the bartender looks at him. They look at each other for a moment, and the bartender chooses not to go over to the man. The man wants a drink, but it's just as well, because he's not really in the mood to talk to anyone. If the bartender did decide to come over to the man and ask him if he would like something, the man would have probably stayed silent and pushed his tired creased hat over so the shadow would cover his eyes.
Restaurant by Robert Stewart. Pete opened his own little diner. He called it the Typhoid. Pete's restaurant did not get very much business the first few days it was open. He decided to change the name to the Great Greaseball. But still, nobody came to eat at his restaurant. Finally, he changed the name to Free Food. Lots of people came, but Pete did not make a whole lot of money. Alaskan Golf by Robert Stewart. I don't think that people in Alaska play much golf, because when I was there, I did not see very many golf courses. I think that they don't play for two reasons. One is that I bet the balls get lost in the snow. The second is that I bet the big bears hide near the holes, and when the golfers come to get their balls, the bears are waiting for their dinner.
The birthday present. It was sometime in late August, because I remember I had just turned 6. I remember that I was in bed, and this is weird. I vividly remember wearing the new pink striped flannel nightshirt I got from my grandparents. It was long sleeved with ruffles on the wrists and bottom and across the front, and a tiny satin bow in front. I don't know why I was wearing it, because it was pretty hot outside. I mean, I was sweating pretty bad, even with just a sheet covering me, which is probably why I was sleeping so lightly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have heard the phone ring. I mean, I can usually sleep through a thunderstorm, much less a phone ringing 2 rooms away. But I guess it was that time of night when if you're up, you just hear every little noise. It's enough to drive you crazy. Well, anyways, I heard the phone ring. For a while, I just lay there waiting. I heard voices coming from my parents' room, which is across the hall and 1 room over. So the voices were basically just varying tones, no words or sentences. I'd hear a break and then more noise. Maybe it was the tension of sitting there waiting, or the stress of straining to make out what my mother was saying. But whatever it was, I really started to sweat. I mean, dripping down my forehead sweat. Thick, beating on my upper lip sweat. And the elastics in the sleeves of my nightshirt where the fabric was gathered really started to itch. God knows why I was wearing that thing in August. I would wipe the sweat with my sleeve, seeing as how that was all warm and fuzzy, it just made things worse. So I just lay there feeling pretty rotten and sweaty, until I heard the door of my parents' bedroom creak open. My mom and dad knocked on the door, which was half open. "Are you awake, Rachel?" I decided to put in that sweet little angel awakened from slumber routine. What time is it?" I mumbled as I rubbed my eyes. "It's late, honey. Can you wake up?" "Uh-huh." They came over and sat on my bed. And this is the weird part. I can't remember what they said, really. It's all pretty much a blur. All I remember from what they said was, "Zach's had an accident. He's in a coma. Do you know what that is?" Zach's my cousin. We're twins because his birthday's 3 days after mine. "Isn't that like sleeping, but you don't wake up for a while?" I said. "Yes, honey. We'll go visit him tomorrow at the hospital. The doctor says he thinks Zach will be okay, so don't worry." "Okay, night." And I turned to signal to my parents that the conversation was over. They probably thought I was too delirious to really understand. When they left, I just lay there. I wondered what had happened. Was he riding his bike and fell? Did he fall down the stairs? My nightshirt was getting so itchy. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I quietly pulled it off and tossed it on the floor next to my bed. That's the thing I remember most about that night. How good it felt when I finally took off that nightshirt.
Queen of Angels by Jeremy Weinberg. Emerging from the shadows, hunted and chased from her lair, amused by death, she kills for pure entertainment. She feels so white. A flawless execution is her resume. Her government is unique. Kills to save lives, not for politics. But she likes to kill. She loves it. Angelic, a martyr to no cause with no solicitation. She wants to die. She clenches her breast, rips open her chest, washes her hands in the black milk. The revelation, she's broken through fear. There are no more barriers to be crossed in life. The soft mouth quiets, her flushed ears hear death. Silence gets louder, the pounding stops. Emerging from the shadows, covered in ashes, she feels so white. She feels so white.
Strategically Placed by Rachel Thompson. I was at the bookstore yesterday, and I saw The Catcher in the Rye. It was $5.99, so I bought it. I bought it and brought it home and placed it strategically in my shelf, right between Shakespeare and Steinbeck. I'd hate to open it. It's got that new book smell. Maybe I'll just leave it up there. And no, I haven't read it. And sometimes I feel just like Holden Caulfield. But then again, don't we all?
Untitled by Sarah Romano. Grandma Rose, losing her mind was a loud thing. It was laughed at, talked about, known. He was falling down in the mint patch, not knowing my Grandpa Ray when he helped her up. "Who are you, you dirty bastard? Get your hands off me. Who do you think I am, some floozy whore? Who the hell are you?" And she yelled in this thick New Jersey accent, one that she had lost 20 years before. "Come on, Rosie," he said, pulling her up. "It's me, Ray." "Oh." We laughed about it later, and she said to me, "Jessie, I'm an old lady, I forget things." She was screaming when she saw her teeth on the sink, and Grandpa Ray explaining that they were hers, and it was touching her face in the mirror and saying I'm an old lady like she didn't know it, and then screaming it for the whole neighborhood to hear. But with Grandma Ellie, it was different. She lost her mind quietly, and we didn't know, and nobody knew about it until it was gone. She wandered into the living room one day, and we were all sitting around. "Jenny, you're gonna burn them peas." "Ma?" She wasn't looking at me, Ma, she was looking through her. "Jenny, girl, I swear you're gonna burn them peas." "Ma?" It was Uncle Tim now. "Jenny!" My Aunt Bess stood up and took her by the arm. "Jenny's not here, Mom. You know Jenny." "Jenny?" Grandma had this look on her face like she was utterly lost and on the other side of sleep. Aunt Bess led her back into the bedroom, and once she was out of earshot, the room exploded. "Jesus Christ! That was my mom. She's gone crazy. What the hell is wrong with her? Uncle Tim. Alzheimer's? It was my Uncle Rick sitting in the corner. It's too sudden to be Alzheimer's. She must be sick or something. It was my mother again. What? Sudden? Hardly. The cigarette dangled in Uncle Rick's mouth. She's been like this for a while now. What? You didn't tell us? Uncle Tim's face was like an eggplant. Well, maybe if you saw her more often, you'd know. And he got up out of his chair and left the room. Well, that's how we learned about Grandma Ellie. She had Alzheimer's like Grandma Rose, but with Grandma Rose, we could accept it, we could laugh about it. But with Grandma Ellie, it was a dark thing, like it was her fault, like she had no right to forget. She was their mother, the one certainty in their lives. She was going crazy, and there was nothing they could do about it. Nothing. And they blamed her for it.
The Clock by Jeremy Winder. Blankly I glance, trying to decipher my time remaining in this class. I look up, 1:40 p.m. My mother told me I was born at 1:42. My grandparents both died at 1:49 one day, blindsided by a truck. Instant. The car was totaled. The gas tank exploded. Only the clock and the ashtray remained functional. By the time the paramedics arrived, it was obviously too late. The clock read 1:56. I again peer up at the round-faced referee, omnisciently making the decisions of our lives, impartial and unbiased. It's 1:46. Class is almost over.
He Drives Too Fast by Josh Swedlow. He sits with his chin on his knees and his arms wrapped around his legs in the garage. He sits and he wonders what it would be like to paint his black cat red. He sees his black cat Dean, his name is Dean, lying in the corner with his body hiding his legs, and decides that his cat needs some excitement. All that stupid cat does is sleep. How about an awakening? Besides, black cats are unlucky, right? He shifts his body, but still sits hugging his legs, and he finds a can of red spray paint sitting on the shelf. He can reach the spray paint without his cat noticing. He knows he can. He looks at his cat and then back at the spray paint, and he smiles. But no, it wouldn't be a good idea, so he stands himself up and goes inside, trying not to look back at the cat. In the discount formula shop, he searches the racks in the back of the store, hoping that someone who works there will come and help him. After a few minutes of his coughing and other subtle hints, no one does, and he really does not want to signal for help, so he tries to find a tux by himself. He takes off his denim jacket weighed down by all the extra junk in his pockets, and he throws it on the nearest chair. He starts to sift through the rentals, looking for the cheapest tux with the fewest holes, when he spots a yellow tuxedo hidden behind the open employees only door. He walks through the doorway to the yellow tuxedo hanging on a piece of pipe. The tuxedo is completely yellow except for what might be a grape juice stain on the lapel, which he notices but forgets. He feels the fabric between two of his fingers, and he smiles. But for a reason he can't explain, he paces back to the other racks, grabs the first tux in his size, and drags it into the changing room. He slips on the black jacket while dropping the pants onto the floor. The jacket feels fine on him. Well, it fits. But he takes it off and walks out of the store, not bothering to hang the tux back up. Outside, wandering back to his car, he notices a patch of grass growing near his feet. The grass stands alone, he notices. This is the greenest grass that he remembers. But thinking back, he cannot remember ever seeing grass before. It seems strange to him now. He knows what grass is, of course, but he cannot remember ever seeing grass like this. He kneels for just a moment, only enough time to pluck a few blades of grass and to rub them between his palms and then drop them. He starts back to his car again and opens the door he forgot to lock. But before he starts the car, he notices a hint of green dye on his palms rubbed off from the grass. He smells it, but it doesn't smell like anything. He's about to wipe the dye off onto his pants, but decides against it and starts the car. He pulls out of the parking lot and he blinks. While he drives too fast, he remembers the red spray paint sitting on the shelf destined for his cat, and how the yellow tuxedo felt between his fingers. This reminds him of the feeling of the grass massaging his palms, which now seems to be fading away. He blinks again. The memory fades a little bit more. Worried that he'll forget the grass that has begun to disappear faster from his mind than his hands, he slows the car down and fixes his eyes on the grass out the window. Even at this speed, the world is going by him so fast that the grass doesn't feel like grass anymore. He is unable to pick out a single blade of grass as he could only a few minutes before. And then he realizes his memory of grass is this one, the fake blur, and not what he saw at his feet. He blinks once, twice, and he notices. He brings the car over to the shoulder and he stops. He gets out of the car, leaving the door open. He gets out and he sits with his chin on his knees and his arms wrapped around his legs in the grass.
Bridges by Aaron Stromberg. I woke that morning in a cold sweat, my pulse pounding in my temple. Shaking off panic, I dragged myself from bed. I walked down the stairs and onto the front porch, greeted by the cool morning air on my face. Barefoot, I walked over the dew-soaked grass to the street. Looking behind me, I soon found my heart in my throat. Facing me were dozens of bridges, each one burned to the ground. Destruction was everywhere, like a plague. There was so much pain, damage upon damage. I looked ahead to see a massive tunnel looming ominously, seeming to stretch on into infinity. What to do? Go backward into a hell long gone, or forward into the unknown? I picked up my hammer and headed to the truck. The tunnel could wait. There were bridges to build.
Time to Go by Aaron Studland. Sometimes my movement is not bound by bodies, but restricting minds that combine to one thought. Their intentions are not what they seem, but I forgive them because they are confused. They limit themselves, for they are frightened to venture to places unknown, unfamiliar. And as they stand completely still, time elapses around them. Rain falls, flowers bloom, and leaves really do change colors. Oh, I know they see the roses, but I swear they miss the dandelions. They love the shining sun, but they never notice the funny shapes the clouds make. And as the tiny fly rests upon my leg, they comment on the blue jay that sits on the fence. They will soon open their eyes. Or maybe not, but I must get moving.
Delusions by Rachel Thompson. I sit on a sandy rock and stare out into Lake Michigan, wearing my red and blue flannel, a medium Diet Coke from Mickey D's in one hand, a novel in the other, my blue Schwinn mountain bike leaning on its side in the sand. Two 12-year-old boys urinating on their bonfire in an attempt to hide its traces from the police. Another failed attempt to submerge myself in nature.
By Sarah Rivara. I want to go to a party and wear a long dress and feathers in my hair. And I want to climb the tree in the yard with bare feet and never wear my hat and not care if my freckles grow like sunflowers. And I want to dance with Daddy in a new pink dress. And I want to be an only child. And I want Sally to stay home and never go away. The mist in the mountains can't hide me. Even as far as I go, only parts of me disappear. And I want to throw myself in, and I want to be Peter Pan and never come out. And I want Mama to pat my cheek and tell me how pretty I look. And I want Mama to be happy, even when there's not a party. The mountains throw me back every time. I get it only so far when I hit the wall and come ricocheting back into my yard. I want to dig a hole in China and crawl right through the center of the earth and live there for a while. Climb a tree and never come down, ever. I want to stay in these mountains forever. And I want to leave this house, these people, and fly away to the ocean and throw myself in it sometimes. Try and find where the mermaids live. But I'm afraid that I'll get caught on a steeple or skyscraper, be flung right back, or farther, fall.
Glee by Rob Stewart. Glee, said the man with the 4-shirted sheep. Glee, he said, because he had a lot of wool to which to sleep. When he woke up and got out of his wool-stuffed bed, he screamed, "Ah!" and said, "I have an ache in my head." He thought, maybe I should make a nice warm wool sweater. He started to work until he felt much better. When he was done, he had a really big, thick, cozy wool bodysuit. Rules by Robert Stewart. I was in Norway last month. I saw the boy playing basketball. He had 3 legs. He was allowed to take an extra step more than the other boys because of his extra foot. I like that rule. I think they should have it in the U.S.
Locker by David Feck. 1, 14, 22. The lock clicks. It slowly opens the narrow gray locker door. It is now pale and worn. Blotches of chipped paint surround the lock. The poor door shows scars of battle wounds from the long school year. Once the door is open, Sam stares in awe of how unkept and unorganized the locker has been. It looks as though there had been an earthquake, shaking up everything in the locker and throwing the items everywhere. Yet, no earthquake had taken place, just a whole year of school. As he sits on the cold hallway floor, his dark brown eyes stare at the intimidating cleanup job, he brushes away his long black hair out of his eyes and starts to clean up. As the cleanup begins, he starts to remember the long school year. The boy remembers the latest things first, as he shuffles through the recent assignments on the top layer. A crumpled Spanish oral exam, recently failed, 2 ripped folders, a crusty bathing suit, an empty can of aerosol deodorant, a dried up flower from homecoming, and a note, the note. He takes the note and starts to look it over cautiously. Boy, what a day that was. The note, thrown in the locker, ignored until now, just ripped because he knew what the note contained. Sam lets out a deep breath. She was his first love and ended it all that day. He wished there was something he could have done to get her back, but there never was. The letter was thrown away that day. Sam hoped never to see it again, hoping to forget his sorrows by putting it away behind him. The deeper he digs down in the locker, the harder it is to remember. The older the relic, the sadder he gets. He's sad because this is his last locker cleanup ever. No more lockers next year, no more safe places for his valuables to be kept, no more sanctuary where his precious writing can be kept, no more home to his pet goldfish Maurice. A horrid smell. The rotten aroma comes from inside the locker, just under the nearest layer. Sam, very cautiously, with one hand plugging his nose and one hand uncovering the papers, reveals a 3-month-old paper bag with a lunch still inside it. He whips it out from under the papers and chucks it into the large garbage can. Breathing out a sigh of relief, he is able to smell it once again. To Sam, it was not just any sack lunch. It was a brown bag lunch made by his mom. Next year, his mom will no longer be making lunches. It'll be up to him to find his own food. No more of mom's perfect lunches, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, an apple, a pudding snack, a bag of chips, a can of soda. No more mom next year to take care of Sam. He'll be on his own. The next layer reveals a thick wool hat, 1 glove, a dog bone, a thought-to-be lost arithmetic book, 2 combs, countless pens and pencils, and 1 sock. Sam starts reflecting back on the school year, and the last day of school ever. He starts to think ahead to the huge responsibilities awaiting him. All the situations seem frightening, meeting new friends, living in a different place, leaving home. All things seem gargantuous in size, intimidating, surreal, on his own. On his own. An empty case of Advil, an unused glue stick, a pencil sharpener, a book, a great book. J.D. Salinger's amazing novel, Catcher in the Rye. It is Sam's favorite book, the only one in which he did not miss a single reading assignment in English. Sam sits back against the wall. The coolness of the bricks feels good against his thin t-shirt. He opens the book and randomly lands on an underlined passage. Sam starts to read about ducks leaving their summer home in a Central Park pond, about how the ducks know when to leave on their annual pilgrimage, and how to leave together, stay in formation, and Holden Caulfield's fascination with them and their well-being. The aura of the ducks leaves Sam in a daze, and he sits against the wall to privately collect his thoughts. After a few brief minutes to himself, Sam continues his cleanup job. An empty Evian water bottle, a torn football program, 1 dirty and worn shin guard left over from the disappointing soccer season. A family picture. Sam does not remember the picture ever being taken or how it even ended up in his locker. It was a picture of his whole immediate family. His father, his mother, his younger brother, all happy with genuine smiles on their faces and dressed up in nice clothes. The picture was still intact, still perfect, except for one crucial tear. The picture was missing Sam. His part of the picture had somehow gotten torn off in the locker. Sam frantically starts throwing things to the side to try to find the picture of himself. It was no use. He cannot find it. Quietly, Sam finishes his cleaning. At the end, puts all the waste in a large white garbage bag. 1, 14, 22. Sam looks to the side of his locker. On the floor is the letter, a piece of brown bag from his lunch, and Catcher in the Rye. Sam looks at the things in bewilderment, then scoops them up and throws them all away. He jams the locker shut with a final crash and silently walks down the long, cold corridor with the family picture crumpled in his left hand.
Untitled by Alex Sinise. Cool autumn day. As the tall, thin boy strolls lazily past the dirty-looking store, the wind blows through the windy city. He solemnly glances at the looming sign above which reads, Ned's Resale Shop. If you don't want it, Ned probably does. The boy takes his sweaty hands out of his pockets and cracks his knuckles. He glances through the window of the shop and sees a fat man with a mustache reading a newspaper behind the counter. The boy hesitates, then enters the store. The doorbell jingles as he enters and he keeps his head low. Approaching the counter, he notices dozens of rings, watches, and coins collecting dust. The man notices his approach and puts down his newspaper, wipes his sweaty brow, and clears his throat audibly and says, How can I help you, young man? The boy takes the package out from inside his jacket and lays it on the greasy counter. And there it lay, badly bruised and cracked in the middle. The man examines it from all sides. This thing ain't worth much to me. You really did a number on it. The man picks it up and holds it to the light. The boy winces in pain, seeing it so naked, so damaged. How long has this thing been broke, kid? A couple of weeks? Months, maybe? Let me tell you something. This thing is worth a lot more to you than it will ever be to me. This thing is strong, and I should know. All you gotta do is give it a little time, and it'll heal itself. You take this thing out, and you're gonna regret it for the rest of your life. In my book, a kid walking around with no heart ain't no kid at all.
Hope you enjoyed this year's edition of Masterpiece Theater. And remember, if you want to be involved next year, whether you want to submit, perform, coach, or just work on crew, any of those, keep your eyes open at the end of the first semester for further announcements. Also, if you wanted to submit this year and just need that extra bit of confidence, you might want to talk to your English teacher about getting you involved in creative writing next year. If you want to see the full Masterpiece program, which is program A and B, we're doing it on Thursday night at 7:30 here. Thanks for being a great audience. Remember, leave your programs on your chairs.